So shiny penny syndrome, it's one of those things that we maybe take for granted or don't quite understand, but it can have a ton of implications on you as a founder and your team overall. So let's start by giving just a quick example of what it can do, how it can harm you, and hopefully over the next 10 minutes I can give you some best practices on how to identify it, what to do when it might be happening to you, and some best practices along the way. So let's dive right in. From the trusted source of urbandictionary.com, I bring to you the example. Girl sits on bench beside girlfriend. Cute boy walks by. Girl turns to girlfriend and says, "Oh my God, he's so cute." Girlfriend turns back to girl and says, "Girl, don't you have a boyfriend?" And girl turns back to girlfriend and says, "Yeah, but he's so handsome." And she goes and chases after him. In a nutshell, that's the easiest example I can give you of the shiny penny syndrome. But I think it'll probably make more sense if I give you something more relevant. I'll give you an example of something that happened to us in our early days. Finaeo's been around about 18 months, and the first 6 months of our journey went really well. We followed the lean startup playbook to a T, 135 customer interviews, 50-person beta, ran for 6 weeks, 3.5-week MVP build out. I mean, what could go wrong? We even raised our first $250,000 from our clients, so we thought we were off to a good start. Continued on our journey, had a lot of fun, raised a little bit more money, and then we started courting investors. I mean, I could see it, there it was a seed round coming together. All of a sudden, I kept hearing the same question asked. "Aly, does your technology scale into enterprise?" Probably, and we could probably make it happen. So that same weekend, I happened to be sitting at home and an email comes in my inbox titled, "Aly, you're gonna wanna read this." Happened to be an old colleague of mine that I had actually pitched our product vision to in the early days to get validation. Turns around, read through his email, and he says, "Everything that you talked about seems to be on our roadmap. Would love to book you a meeting to come in and talk to one of the big banks." One meeting, no problem. I'll take that. So 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in the office with the CTO, the CIO, the head of product, head of strategy, head of advisor services, head of catering. Basically, there was a head title they were in that room. And after a riveting hour-and-a-half discussion, I left there thinking, I've got it. Our technology is definitely made for enterprise. And so as most of us do, we went back to our consortium of advisors to get some advice on what we should do next. And it was great advice. They said, look, you're a young startup. You're probably not going to be able to have any leverage. So go and find a couple of more banks and you'll be able to create some competition to close the deal. Perfect, I thought. So there we go, a 90-day journey, it takes off. And I am hitting the phones. I'm riveting through the network, trying to find a meeting. I'm having coffee and more coffee and more coffee. And I swear to God, if I drank any more coffee, I was going to fall down. But long story short, we were able to actually get meetings with all of the top 5 banks. And lo and behold, we went through with one of them in particular, a 14-meeting process that took probably about 100 man-hours, flying back and forth from Vancouver. On top of that, we had spent about 3 or 4 weekends in a row now creating a 20-page project charter, wireframes, a new prototype, reconfigured our entire tech stack to figure out if we could solve this enterprise problem. Now, lo and behold, after what we thought was a beautiful last meeting, we were told, nope, that's not going to work. And so we were actually at this point in time where we felt like we'd lost our way. We didn't know if enterprise was what we should focus on anymore. And I can tell you, even the most experienced advisors in our network couldn't help us go by the shiny penny syndrome. So what happened after that? Our team has gotten a really great habit of taking a look at decisions that we make and peeling back onions, layer after layer after layer, to help us get to the root cause. We follow a framework called the 5 whys. I'll give you an example. Product didn't ship on time. Why? Dev team didn't establish the right criteria for the requirements. Why? Because our sales team didn't quite understand what the customer was looking for. Why? Because we don't have a process in place of taking customer feedback and driving it back into product. Why? Because we don't know that that's important because it's our first time doing this. Why? Because we didn't think about the process. And so if you end up thinking about the root cause or root cause scenarios, it can give you a ton of insight as to what actually went wrong and why. In our case, we realized that instead of trying to focus on solving the problem that we knew how to solve, we actually tried to appease an investor. And that is how we got caught with the shiny penny. Now, all of us as startup founders know that you gotta stay hyper-focused. You gotta stay focused on your strategy, on your customer, on the problem that you're trying to solve. But why is it that so many of us get caught picking up the shiny penny? Well, I'll tell you, the same thing that makes us amazing founders is the same reason why we end up picking up that shiny penny. It's our curiosity. It's our thirst for solving the tough problem. It's the hunger we have to go and chase down a rabbit hole at 2 in the morning. You wake up 3 days later with a Red Bull beside you and you're like, what the heck just happened? But that's the sand trap that we continually get caught in. And let's just level set for a second, because if you're gonna be a great founder, you have to have awesome curiosity. So we all kind of have the same root cause, that we are curious and therefore we may have pitfalls. So the real question is on this scale of Kanye to Kanye, how Kanye are you? And my answer is it's very difficult in the moment to actually understand what you might be going through. And here are some really nice checks and balances. You might be able to look back, like machine learning, and pattern recognize. Is the decisions that I made previously lead me down a rabbit hole? Are the decisions that I plan to make in the future going to lead me there? So let me give you some example questions. Are the last 3 growth experiments relative to the value proposition that we promised to our core customer? Are the next 5 features on our roadmap actually delivering on a customer problem, or is it based on a perceived bias internally? Or am I hiring the best person for the job using hired.com, or they didn't pay me? Or am I hiring the best looking person for the job? And these are all different things that you can take in retrospect to ask yourself if you are going down a rabbit hole. Now, all of us are more susceptible to going up and picking shiny pennies time to time, and it's easy to identify when these times are happening. Usually, we're not going to deviate from course when things are going well. It's the times that aren't going so well that you actually struggle the most and are most susceptible to the shiny penny syndrome. And at times when you are struggling, most of us will go through and talk to our mentors and talk to our network. Now, for a moment, don't take that I'm saying don't ask questions and don't get help. That would be foolish. But what I am saying is it's super, super important as a founder to trust your own gut, to trust your instinct, and to know that at the end of the day, you're the only person with all the information right in your head. Also, you need an incredible amount of patience. After we've gone ahead and put all the strategy in place, we've done our go-to-market, we've done our competitor analysis, we've put a great plan together, and then we knee-jerk and we deviate so fast the moment something goes wrong. Most likely, it's not about a big strategic overhaul, but it's more about tweaking a small dial. So have patience and thou shalt be rewarded. But ultimately, we will all end up coming to this fork in the road and have a decision to make, and I promise you, time to time, you are going to pick up that shiny penny, and that's okay. But it's important to know if you are going to pick up that shiny penny, what might happen? It starts with this one. It starts by burning valuable time and money. And we all know that as a startup, what you need is more swings at bat. The more swings you have, the better chance you have of solving the problem. And the more money you have, the better timeline you have. And therefore, do not burn money. So if you're going to burn money, and you're going to do it on purpose, make sure that you're time boxing and cost boxing. Go through some sort of analysis to understand, is the value reward that I'm looking for out of this experiment giving me the relative return that I'm hoping for? The next is confusion. And confusion doesn't necessarily have to be at the executive level. If you're a 20-person company, you never want employee number 8 and employee number 17 to feel like the company's not following a trajectory or vision. So as a founder, what you always want to do is ensure that the North Star is well kept. You're always giving your team insights as to why you're doing certain things, and it will help to keep them focused along the bumpy ride that we know called the startup journey. And then worst case scenario, dun, dun, dun. I'm lost. What happened? I don't even know how I got here. And you wake up one day and you're like, my entire path has been changed. And I'll tell you, during my early days, my brother and I have had some really heated, passionate discussions around pitch decks. Any founder in the room knows you don't want to waste time building a pitch deck for an investor. I want to go get another sale, or I want to write another line of code. But after hours and hours of him hammering into me that this is not a pitch deck, Aly D, this is a roadmap for your business, I finally understand. What it allows you to do is go back anytime you want to run an experiment and say, does this experiment make sense based on that roadmap to my business? And it's a living, breathing document that you have to continue to update, continue to bring back to fruition, and continue to drive you forward. So I will tell you a little more. Most recently, as sales typically does, we oversold our product. And our dev team had about 3 months to catch up. So we realized really quickly that trying to sell more licenses to our SME client wasn't going to really help us. We needed more time to let dev catch up. So it was a perfect time to run an experiment. So there we were again, the moment. I knew it was coming. It was right in front of me. We pivoted our entire sales and marketing team from B2B to B2C to try to unlock this lovely marketplace that we're trying to build. But this time we did things a little bit differently. What we did is we staged our experiments in 4-week increments. Even more, we went ahead and said, we're not going to get to the next stage of the second experiment until we unlock the box, meaning all the milestones have to be achieved. But this time we ran into a completely different problem. 2.5 weeks into the first 4-week leg, we actually overachieved all the milestones that we put in place. Sounds like a really, really bad problem, because it was. We were making revenue in a place that we didn't anticipate making revenue, and so very few companies, I think, would have had the bandwidth to say, nope, we actually got to stop. So after 2.5 weeks of successfully running an experiment, we cut it off. We said no. We learned what we needed to. We needed to move back to our core business. And had we gone through the rest of the 12 weeks, we probably would have learned more. but I think we extracted out of it what we were looking to achieve. So if I leave you with one thing, ask yourself this question. If not this, then what? Anything you do is always going to have a trade-off. So if you're going to make that trade-off, do the cost-benefit analysis, do the growth model activities, go back to your deck and ask yourself, if not this, then what? Thank you for your time.
Questions? There's a few mics around the room.
Hi, Vandana here.
Hi.
So you talked about, your experiment where you pitched your startup to the big banks. So I'm guessing you didn't go that angle. So where did you finally pivot to?
Well, we never really pivoted. I would say we just went and hyper-focused back on our go-to-market, which was a bottoms-up, focusing on helping small boutique financial consultancies equip themselves for a digital era. So our technology is theoretically scalable into enterprise, but our team, our early traction, our value proposition was all driven around SME. So we've decided to just continue down that path.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Okay, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
How do you prevent your employees from getting into the shiny penny syndrome?
Oh, it's really hard. It's really hard because most of the people that you want to hire are extremely bright individuals. And you want to give them the bandwidth and the freedom to go and experiment on their own and come back and bring great ideas that the founding team may not have thought of. So what I think is really important is when they bring those ideas back to you, it's pulling out that deck. As much as I kind of hate to go back to it, it's pulling out that deck and say, all right, here it is. It's right in front of you. Where does this fit based on the roadmap to our business? And if it does fit, that's great. If not, let them challenge you to the nth degree. Actually, we had our head of success send me an email over the weekend asking me for the latest pitch deck, because now we've made that such a habitual part of our business that they know if they're going to experiment, that's cool, but it has to tie back into strategy.
Any other questions?
Can I ask? I hear that Finaeo values remote work. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. I think that work-life integration is the trendy word for that now. We live in this time that technology makes it really easy to bring people together. There is no replacing bright people in a room. So don't get me wrong, I think it's super important to have people in a room together, but if you want to hire the greatest talent, geography cannot bound you. So you have to actually plan for that, you have to budget for that. It's more expensive. We actually founded our company in Vancouver. One of my co-founders is still there, and we have to bring him every 4 weeks for meetings, and it's something that we had to plan for and our investors had to agree to.
Hello?
Hi.
Clearly, I'm not from the tech or fintech industry because I don't know how to work the mic. But Aly, I truly loved your presentation, as in I think I got really good ideas from what you have just presented. But I still don't know sort of what your company does. And I could Google you right now and find out, but I rather want to hear from you.
Yeah, we were explicitly told not to, but I'll give you one sentence. So we're a platform for the insurance professional. Effectively, it's a front-end management software, verticalized CRM that we're backing onto a marketplace, allows people to go from prospect to policy all in a workflow. I've done that a few times.
All right, one last question from me.
Yes.
If we don't have pennies in Canada, can Canadians have shiny penny syndrome?
Maybe. Shiny nickels? Yeah, thank you.